Welcome to the Ascension Stargate Podcast Series, where we discuss the aspects of human consciousness, spirituality, metaphysics and philosophy, energy, extraterrestrial life, science, biology, and the alchemy of higher states of beingness, all from a heart-centered perspective. I am your host and guide, Glenn Mate, and let's begin our journey. Hey everybody, I'm Glenn Mate from the Ascension Stargate Podcast Series, and I would love to welcome this amazing woman. Our guest today is the most beautiful Aurora Luna Star. She is such a good friend, a mentor to me, a teacher to me. She provides me these wonderful insights, and she is just the most amazing human on the planet. She is a divine channel. She is a teacher. She is a sound healer. She is a spiritual advocate. She does work and retreats and personal work on one-on-one sessions with people all over the planet. Aurora, I'd love for you just to explain a little bit about yourself and all of the wonderful things that you do for everybody in humanity.
Well, thank you for that amazing introduction. I'm honored to be here with you today, so thank you. I do a lot of different things, and I feel like the most focal point of my work would be empowerment. So while sound healing is amazing and while channeling is awesome, the energy that I love to work with is helping people recognize that we're all here for a great purpose, every single person. And part of that purpose is that we're shifting consciousness on the planet into remembering that we are a part of the one, of the all, of source, of God, however you want to put it. And so with that, it becomes imperative that we remember that this playing small business is really not serving anyone. And playing small can show up in two ways. It can show up in keeping yourself really hidden from the world, or it can also show up in this boastful, almost arrogant way because we want to be seen so badly. And I've been definitely partial to both in my own spiritual journey. There have been times when my feathers have been ruffled and you need to see me because I need to be seen. And there are other times when I just haven't wanted to be seen. You know, we all have the experience of being shut down in some way, shape, or form, especially when we were younger. And so the desire is to come into balance with all of that and to integrate the remembrance that when we're connected to the earth and Gaia and all of her energy, when we're connected to source and the all that is, and all of our teams of light, which could include anything from galactics to angelics to elementals, we suddenly come into balance with all the energy of this inner child that's just begging for attention, right? And so we want to just heal those pieces and love them. We don't have to be ashamed of having anger or jealousy or frustration or grief. And I feel like on the spiritual path, a lot of different way showers out there may have brought light in an interesting way to those feelings. Like we're not allowed to have them, or we should be ashamed of having them. When really the shadow pieces of ourselves, it's all the foundation for the light that we have and that we have an opportunity to bring. And so the empowerment piece comes in where we have this great expression of love. And the more that we come into balance with all those pieces, we get to be that love. And so that's really the work that I love doing the most, is bringing people back to the awareness that we've all had this interesting journey to get to this moment. And now from this moment, we get to make choices.
Yes, so absolutely true. Without the backdrop of the darkness, we would never be able to find the light. Exactly. So we know that, yeah, there's a balance that's always going on, and we're always trying to equate that balance. So, I find it just so interesting that, in your work and your expressions, that you get to empower people. And, I've been so very blessed to have known you for in a friendship as a little over a year, and experience your work, to be part of your own retreat, and to see that lovely dance that you do with your guests, with your clients, and even with me. I'm very so grateful for that sharing those insights to give that new level of perception. And it's just a beautiful thing that you do with everybody in such a delicate but yet honest way, where we can express ourselves in our truth and not waver from that, and still be, you know, compassionate and receptive that in a loving way. And, I honor you for that. So one of the things I wanted to let people know is a little bit about your journey. You are certainly not a newbie to the spiritual community, having invested yourself for better than a decade in this work. So could you speak a little bit about your journey and how things came about, and where did Aurora, or when did Aurora find all of these amazing gifts that were starting to just come up from the ground and come and blossom into the lovely Aurora that you are today?
Thanks. That's a great question. And, like with all of us, for the most part, I would say, there are some people out there having really quickenings where their awakening happened really fast. For me, I definitely took the slow, long, hard, icky, challenging road. I shouldn't say icky. But what I would say is that I worked in corporate America for 17 years. And during that time, all the things that really felt aligned for me got shut off. So, for instance, was that I was singing in choir since I was a little kid. Yet when I made it into my 20s, that was nowhere in my life. I had seen interdimensionally when I was a child. I used to see patterns in the dark, and I used to see beings in the dark, and I used to speak light language when I was very young. And all of that had disappeared. So what was funny was as I started to come back through the journey, it was an awareness and a realization that those things were part of that energetic all along. They were part of my spiritual being, my connection to source and the galactics and my channel. But with that said, corporate America, after that 17-year stint, I remember talking to a friend on the phone, and just as I was pulling up to the office, feeling deep grief. Like I literally started crying in my car, and then I was still crying when I got behind the desk, when I got to work. Because at that point, some of my corporate career had financed my spiritual journey. I was already a Reiki master teacher and another healing modality instructor, and I felt like I was living this incongruent life. It didn't make sense anymore that I still had to go behind the desk to make enough money to sustain myself and kind of live a lie, rather than doing the work that I really was inspired and excited to do. And so I realized I needed to quit my job. And so I gave them actually quite a bit of notice, because I wanted them to be able to find someone appropriate to replace me. And the guidance was to pack up and move to Mexico. And so I did. And that was the very beginning, where I just took the training wheels off and said, okay, God, here I am. And so I did move down to Mexico with my cat and 8 suitcases. I lasted about 7 months. And it wasn't because I failed in any way, looking back to realize it was just that Mexico was a big quickening of a classroom. I got down there. I thought I had a job waiting for me. I did not. I had a little bit of savings that I burned through very quickly. Through Source and all these series of events, I met people who supported me and helped me. And so I went on Paseo Monteo every Sunday, which was a street where everyone would put their wares. There were beautiful shirts and coffees and bakery and all these different things that were on the street that people could walk by and purchase. I was selling readings and healings. And a friend of mine would help me translate for those who I couldn't communicate well with. So it was from that point that I realized that Source was completely every step of the way giving me everything I needed. And at one point around Christmas, I started to feel despair. And I asked, how much longer do I need to be here? And I heard just a while longer. So there were more things that I was facilitating. I was learning deep humility. I was learning deep trust. I was remembering what it felt like to be in deep surrender. And so by the time of my 40th birthday, I was moving back to New York, moving back home. and navigating what my next steps would be. And funny enough, I left with these 8 suitcases. I came back with 4. That was part of the lesson. Part of the lesson was understanding and knowing that material things were always going to be provided for, and there was never going to be a necessity to have so much stuff, right? As humans, I feel like we love our stuff. I love my crystals. I love all the decorations and beautiful statues and posters that I have. And they're just a representation, right? They're just an energetic vibration representation of what is already inside. So in letting go of all of that, eventually Shasta came on scene. And so again, I packed up a very small car, whatever fit in the car came, and the cat. He came with me to Mount Shasta, spent 3 years there, sloughing off more and more and more layers of ego. Shasta was a big classroom. It was a hard class. It was almost harder than Mexico. Maybe they were equal. But again, it was this time of remembering that we're not victims, that we co-create, that we invite people in our life to be our teachers, that love is always going to be the answer, and that in order to really be in forgiveness, we have to forgive ourselves. And I would say those were the main points of the classroom for Mount Shasta. And all the while doing a lot of spiritual work, but at the same time, I was barely making enough money to survive because I was still in this lack mentality. It was huge. I got my car repossessed while I was living in Mount Shasta. And I was riding a bicycle, right? And that's when John Burgos had found me. So crazy. When I was at my absolute lowest point is when John Burgos found me. John Burgos is an international, amazing podcaster who's, back in the day, it wasn't called a podcast. It was a telesummit. Right. That's how long John's been around, right? So it was just amazing to be in my most lowest point, to be found by somebody who saw my light and said, "Hey, I want you on my show." And I was like, "No, absolutely not." Mm. And he said, "Yes, right. You're going to do this." He was my guiding light who saw something in myself that I didn't see. And what was funny to share is that to come back around, when he was at our retreat most recently in Mount Shasta for the 8-8 Gateway, and he just popped in to say hi, I said, "When you met me, I was an acorn." And he said, "Aurora, you were never an acorn. That's just how you saw yourself." And I was like, wow, that hit me really intensely, right? Because what do we do for a living? Both of us, right? We try to empower people to come back into their light and to recognize who they are. And he's right. I didn't see myself. He could see what I didn't see. So it was really profound when he said that, especially coming back full circle to be in Mount Shasta with him again all these years later. So, the journey has been filled with, and then of course I got led here to Sedona, which, funny enough, it was my conversation with John that I'd had many years prior that led me to remembering that he said, "Hey, I see you living in Sedona one day." And I said, "Yeah, I see that too, but I don't know the timing." And that was the impetus for me to move here in the divine timing that I did, which has been an expansive, beautiful, amazing experience. I even remember when I moved to Sedona and my rent was going to be so much more than it was when I lived in Shasta, I said, "Spirit, what am I going to do when I get there? And how am I going to pay for all of this stuff? And what is the alchemy that's going to take place? Because you're asking me to trust you for this huge move. And I don't know how I'm going to do it." And Spirit said, "What do you think the difference is between this amount and this amount of money?" And I said, "Zeros." And Spirit laughed back at me and said, "Everything is just energy."
That's right.
Money is just energy. Right. And that got me on a whole new awareness of alchemy and the quantum field, and recognizing how we manifest and what it looks like to really be in fierce states of self-love to bring everything we need into place. So the spiritual journey has been immense. It constantly is still teaching me. I'm still the student every single day. And I'm in such gratitude for having some courage to move through an immense amount of fear, because the fear has showed up every step of the way. I've never done any big move and any big piece of my journey, sometimes even the small pieces, without a lot of fear showing up. And I'm just grateful to my teams of light, to my friends, all the people that support me on this journey, because, it's this journey in humanity is definitely not for the faint-hearted. We need to show up every single day saying, okay, Source, I love you. I love myself. I love the earth. How can I show up in my service today? And every day it looks different. Every day it feels different. Some days my bravery is a lion heart that shows up really big, roar. And other days, roar.
Yeah.
It's this tiny little, I want to be brave. I'm not sure how I'm going to get there.
The turtle contracting back into the shell of safety.
Oh, yeah.
And
100%.
right.
Even now, as I get ready to move back to Mount Shasta, I'm experiencing huge waves of energy around having built a life here for 6 years in Sedona, having community here, moving to a town of 900 where I know maybe 5 people still, right? And just trusting that everything that's supposed to happen is going to happen the way it's meant to, answering the call, feeling into the guidance and saying, yes, I answer this because I know you're telling me it's time to come back.
Yes. And what a courageous person you are for taking that beautiful surrender into flow and allowing that to be your guide and just to navigate every day as it comes, with love and compassion. And even if we may deem it as a bad day or a bad experience or a negative experience, it really in its totality is just an experience. And if we allow that flow state to, guide us, then we seem to go through it quicker because we don't have that resistance, that fear based of like, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, or I'm going to butt heads with this. And then all of a sudden we've just created a larger situation. And then emotionally we need to do more work. So thank you for sharing that. That's a great story. And I love your story because it resonates with so many people today that are just starting their journey, or they might be in the middle of the journey. Like, man, this stuff is just tough. I'm sitting in some of the darkest moments of the day of my life and reliving some of these emotions. And it's tough work, but you just seem to show the gifts in those tough work, the what could be, right? The what if we look at something from the positive aspect and continue to move forward. So I appreciate that. And thank you for sharing all of that in your journey in such humility and honesty. So thank you. One of the things that you said was about the retreat. And, I want to go back and talk about that wonderful retreat that you did for the 888 Lionsgate in Mount Shasta, and all of the things that were brought to these just wonderful guests that all synchronistically came to receive you and the energy of the mountain and the energy of the portal of the 888. Would you want to talk a little bit about the mechanics and the theme of all of that and how that unfolded?
Sure. What does happen is the mountain has a voice, and they often will come to me. This is probably my 4th or 5th retreat doing in Mount Shasta, and the Earth Keeper concept comes up every time. And part of the reason why is because we live very busy lives and we love convenience. And oftentimes we don't think about what our convenience is doing to our planet. And when we talk about saving Mother Earth, she doesn't really need saving, because if she wants to, she could shake us all off like fleas. A couple of earthquakes, couple tsunamis, and we're all out of here. And not that that's my wish by any stretch, and it's not her wish either. And if we don't remember that we are stewards and guardians of this land, and if we don't start paying attention to the products that we're using and whether or not they're animal tested, or whether or not they're safe for our waters or our reservoirs or Gaia as a whole, right? We've created all of this use for recycling, but even the recycling process creates a lot of back energy that is a very deep carbon footprint. And so it's really important that we start looking at our laundry detergents, at our makeup, at just all the different plastics that we use and how they get recycled, and whether or not we could be using compostable materials instead of plastics. Plastics are an important part of our society. I get it, right? There have been a lot of advancements through using plastics, but now we're using them so much more than maybe we need to, right? And our oceans are proof of that, and what's happening to the wildlife, oil dumps, all these different pop-up things that are taking place, showing us that we're not paying close enough attention, and we're not perhaps asking for enough accountability. Forget from the corporations. We have to start with ourselves, right? The corporations, we need to hold them accountable, yes. And it starts in our own homes. It starts by maybe not using products anymore that are not aligning with a cleaner energy for the earth. Humanity isn't going to make it if we don't change our way of being. And that's just science. That's, to me, it is climate change. It is all the different ways that we're watching the earth go through manifestation. And climate change, by the way, isn't just getting hotter, it's also getting colder. And it's taking away resources from us and from nature. And we need to live in concert with nature. So the mountain spoke very clearly to that topic, in so much that I was even called upon to ask my friend, Rebecca Maracle of the Mohawk Nation of Canada, to be a part of this retreat and to ask her to be present with us, because the First Nation have always had their finger on the pulse of living in not just energy with the earth, but deep reverence, right? It's an intimate relationship that the First Nation have, that the Indigenous have with the earth, that we have definitely lost our connection with. And so part of that was asking Rebecca to be there with us, to share ceremony with us. I knew I was asking her to do water ceremony, even though I didn't have a real conversation with her about it ahead of time. It was important for her to share that piece of medicine with us, and for us to make rattles, to use the ancient ways of medicine, of sound, right? So I love sound healing, and I love using our voices as sound, and the singing bowls, but also rattles and drums were the original instruments that were used to connect with the heartbeat of the earth, of Gaia. And so it was a matter of listening to the mountain, and even doing a despacho, which is giving back seeds and flowers to the earth, to share the concept of we can release with this ceremony, and then we can call in with the ceremony and bring in the energies of what we're desiring to manifest for our own lives, but also for all of humanity and for the earth. And so that was the call. The call was to grab people from the world, from the energy of whomever felt aligned, who are already on their healing path, or already stepping into their way showing piece, or just about to step into a deeper aspect of their way showing piece, and to call in the frequency of remembrance, a time when, because I believe in reincarnation, we've all walked the planet as First Nation, whether it be Maori from New Zealand, or Druid from, the United Kingdom, First Nations from Mexico and the Americas. All of this energy had a very intrinsic connection, a deeply woven connection with Gaia. And we all have a remembering of that within us. So the purpose was to bring us back to that remembrance.
And it was so special because you opened up with that very earthy energy that is so spiritual, but it brings us back to the point that that energy is always within us, right? And through your retreat, we got to integrate our own spirituality with the spirituality of Mother Gaia, and also, more importantly, with the spirituality of water, right? With that ceremony that you and Rebecca facilitated to bring the empowerment of the divine feminine back into the water it was such a powerful moment. And to observe that as a male who has that feminine energy expression within this vessel, in this soul body, but to see all of the other women become empowered within that energy, within the energy of the water, was very, to say moving at the least wouldn't do it its justice that it deserves, because it is so deep in the spirituality of our humanists, in that balance between the male and the female is such a delicate balance. But this ceremony just showed the importance of what had been lost, to reinvigorate that energy, to bring it back into that equitable balance, that nurturing aspect, that caring aspect, not only of just the water and having respect for what it is, what we put into it, how we treat it, but also that mirrors in the same spiritualities. How do we respect that feminine part of all of us?
Yes. I mean, really, that was Rebecca's ceremony. We just all held space, and I
Yeah.
created space for her to do it. But it was really about remembering that in this time of the patriarchy, it's been very oppressive to know that our clean source of water is now something we constantly have to pay for in bottled water. Almost no one will drink their tap water anymore, right?
Right.
And this has been done mostly through a patriarch rule. Now, it's not to put down the masculine by any stretch of the imagination. It's just time for, like you said, everything to come back into balance. We're not, the divine feminine isn't here to overpower the masculine either. It's just about bringing, like you said, the exact word, equanimity, back to the frequency where everything falls back into love, and that it's safe to be in that space of love, and that we don't have to oppress one another in order to move forward. And it becomes imperative because, again, our resources are incredibly precious and tenuous. If we're not paying attention to the energy of water, water is life. And if we don't pay attention to things that have been dammed, where the dams need to come down in order for life to be restored, that's one of the big things happening up in the Shasta area, are the dams. And the Winnemem Wintu tribe are trying to get the dams removed to bring the salmon back to the area. Right. And people are wondering why bears are going through garbage, because they don't have in the area the food sources that they used to have access to. So it's the balance in all things. It's balance in masculine and feminine. But again, it's balance in man remembering that nature is an integral part and an intrinsic part of how we all live in equanimity. These animals have a right, same as we do, if not more of a right than we do. We've imposed upon the energy of the animals. And so this whole retreat was about coming back to remembering our source, because again, when we act from our personality or from our inner child, we forget how connected we are to everything. And it's not our fault. We've been shown over and over and over again that we're victims, and we believe it. And so now it's about coming back into remembering that we're actually incredibly powerful, especially when we remember the things that make us the same rather than the things that make us different, right? Our governments, everything's going to keep us going at odds, left or right, white or black, whatever the energies are. And instead of focusing on the duality of the energy that's on this planet at this time, we are really here to remember that we can create something entirely new by not making one side right and one side wrong. If we can come into a space of neutrality and responsibility, right? No one is responsible for how I feel, even if they say the worst possible thing to me. Because if I'm standing in the energy of my source and my light, what they say doesn't actually hit me. It creates a space for me to love them.
Right.
And from that space of compassion that I can hold for them, I could actually give them a moment of pause and say, wow, wait, why do I have these feelings? Right? So the opportunities that we all have, and that really the 8-8 gateway, I feel, held space for, as did the mountain, was again a coming back to source and remembering that we're not walking this path alone. No matter how challenging things can look at times, just like you said, there is no good and there is no bad, right? Again, duality, it just simply is. Right. And we assign everything a lot of energy. And in that assignment, we often find ourselves in a lower state of frequency. And if we can just allow things to happen and maybe even giggle at them sometimes, right? Then we actually change what happens next. Because it doesn't have to be the worst thing that happened because we spilled some coffee, or because we did this, or because we did that, or we got to the meeting late, or the tire went flat, whatever it is. When we accept that everything is happening in divine alignment, then we know that we've been saved from something, or something amazing is about to happen, because that's usually what's happening.
So very true. And, one of the other things I wanted to highlight on was part of the metamorphosis of the retreat that took place in many different forms and times was your sound healing. And, I want to touch on that, on how it was so important for people to receive that. Some received some physical healing, some received some cognitive upgrades or energetic upgrades. And, you have such a talent for orchestrating the right tonalities within your sound bowls, within all of the devices of drumming and our rattles. And not even to mention the beauty of your voice and your singing that is healing in itself, because in that moment you are providing those activation codes through your voice to signal our DNA to say it's all right to change, right? There's something better. So could you talk a little bit about some of the sound healing work that you integrated into the retreat that I was so very grateful to take a benefit of?
Thank you. Sure. The sound healing is something that amazes me, in all fairness. The bowls are crystal and conscious. And so they inform me as to how the bowls will be played, because they know the audience better than I do, right? I might know the people there, but I might not know what is needed for them. And I don't claim to know what's needed for anyone, really. And so just by simply opening my vessel to Source and to Gaia, the bowls really play themselves. I'm just the instrument that plays the bowls on behalf of everyone. And sound is really powerful, because when we hear harmonics, we have an opportunity to open our mind to new ideas. And when we hear dissonance, or two tones that are rubbing against each other and they don't sound very good, they're actually breaking patterns in the brain. This is science, again, behind sound. And so if 90% of what we think today, we're going to think tomorrow, and we've got some beliefs that really aren't serving our growth or our purpose, right? Because they were handed to us. They're not our original divine blueprint. They're inserted programs that really don't belong to us, again, to keep us small, or to keep us asleep, or to keep us from actualizing and remembering our divinity. So the sound offers an opportunity, albeit a small one, right? Because the patterns can shift, but then it's what you do with it once you leave, right? Just like even doing plant medicine, there's an integration process. I can help interrupt the pattern. I can help you have an actualization or a realization that a new pattern is available to you, especially since we're mostly water, right? Dr. Emoto's science is real, right? So when we're bringing in a vibration of pure unconditional love, which is what sound to me is, and then I do get the opportunity to channel a lot of different sounding voices and beings and different kinds of love through singing and through light language. And to me, that's just a way that we're very receptive, right? Sound opens us up and it relaxes us. And it gives us an opportunity to just be, without having to think about anything, without having to do anything. You don't even have to follow a meditation. You're just sitting in the space of receptivity. And everyone has their own codes. So again, I'm just receiving from different energetics what might be beneficial to be activated in this time and space. And it's not that you can't activate them, you can, but you might not have an awareness of what's completely dormant in your field at that time. And it's not even that, again, I consciously have an awareness of what's dormant, right? I'm just the vessel on behalf of the beings that are coming in on our behalf, that are all of benevolence, to assist in the process. And it is, like I'm telling you, everyone gets an activation. I get one too. And I'm always amazed at the different sounds, the different tones, the different languages, the different beings. And, we were working with Lemurian frequency through that Telosian energy that's in Mount Shasta. We were working with Sirius and the stars of the 8-8 gateway. We were working with inner Gaia energy. And so all of those beings and a lot of feminine energy did show up in that particular sound healing. So yeah, it is a gift that I wish I could give some sort of explanation to, but I really am just in awe that I get to walk with it, that this is the medicine that I get to share with other people. It really is a humbling experience and is an honor, because one of my clients is mute. They can't speak, they can hear, but they had a seizure. And so their vocal cords don't work. And so in order to communicate, we work through texting with the phone. And what I realized my role is with this person is to make them realize that they still have a voice. They're just sharing it in a different form, right? They're going to use it through writing or through doing their own instrumental combination of putting sounds together. And that's how they're sharing their voice in this life. I don't take it for granted. It is a very powerful and very beautiful gift.
Mm. And that's so very well put. Just because we may not have that physical voice, there's still that ability to express and to share our love and to be in vibration. Because when we go back to the thought process that we are all pure energy, energy has so many different ways of expressing itself. So very beautifully put. One of the things I want to talk about is, all of that metamorphosis of the retreat, and through your creative ideas and insights, and through all of the guides that are with you all the time, you created this wonderful retreat for people to have that metamorphosis, that process of self-awareness, self-empowering. What are some of the new things that you're creating that we can see in the next few months, or possibly for 2025, that we can be aware of that, oh, this is something that might resonate with me. I think I want to be in the presence of Aurora and her retreats and see what energies that are going to come in for me, or what messages. So, what is on your creative color palette that you are making now for the future?
That's a great question. So one of my favorite energies that's happening right now is the co-creation of an oracle deck.
Mm.
And so in the co-creation of the oracle deck, I'm actually using mandala art and light language, and all of it's encoded. And again, it's kind of like when I when I channel vocally, it's the same with the art. I don't know what it is when it's coming through. And so I just start creating and something happens and the mandala is created. And then after I look at the mandala, I receive what energies are behind it. And so I'm in the first iteration of the first 22 cards of this deck that will eventually be printed. But right now, what people are receiving is the image in an email, a description of the image, and then a sound cloud to go with it, a way to work with the image that I receive. And then the beautiful part is ultimately you have your own divine guidance. You may look at this image and download a different being than I downloaded, or feel it in a different chakra than I'm asking you to work with, or feeling it just in a whole new way. So what I love about the cards is that they're evergreen and they're going to be different for each person. And so right now I'm on day 11 of the first 22 cards, and anyone can sign up for the cards at any time, because once you sign up, you're going to receive one every single day for 22 days. And then what I also have is the same concept happening December 1st through the 22nd. So just in time for winter solstice. By then, there'll be all 44 cards will have been created. And so you'll have access to the images, the description, and then the sound cloud. And I'm very excited for it because hopefully in very early 2025, these cards will be made into physicality and you'll be able to purchase the decks. And that I'm very, very excited for. This coming weekend, so the dates would be the 14th and 15th, I'm actually offering a class on channeling on Zoom. It's a live class from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific. And the purpose behind the class is helping people have access to the channel that you already own. Because every single person has a connection to their own source and their own ability to channel. However, 99% of the time you are ignoring it, you're not listening to it, or you're not choosing to connect to it, right? I heard that voice in my head, but I did something else anyway, or I had that idea or that thought, but I have no idea how to get things going. And so everyone has access to source as a being of humanity and, mixy star stuff on this planet, because we're all hybrids of various different kinds. And so you have access to the elemental kingdom. You have access to angelics. You have access to the galactics and the ascended masters. You have all of it. And in order for you to have access, maybe you need to do some of the practices that I have in order to help you remember and access it. So this weekend, I will be facilitating that class. And if you go online and go to my website, auroralunastar.com, and you go to the page, the products page where you can sign up for that class, if you put love, LOVE, in all lowercase at checkout, you'll get an additional 111 off the class. Yeah. And right now I'm offering that class at 50% off. So I invite you, if that feels alignment for you, to join me this weekend. It'll be very, very potent.
Awesome. And we'll make sure that that information will be embedded in the video. So
cool.
If you go to that www.auroralunastar.com, it's going to bring you to that. So we want to make sure that that information is there for you. And also, you mentioned something about a future retreat, possibly in April. Do you have any information on where that might be, or maybe give a little teaser of what the theme might be or how long it's going to be?
Yes, I can give you all that information. So Kenji Kumara, who's not only my mentor, but one of my great friends, is here in Sedona, and he's asked me to do a retreat with him in April. So I will come back to Sedona in April to the Global Center for Christ Consciousness. Mm. It's going to be April 7th to the 11th. So it's a 5-day retreat. Kenji does the mornings, I do the evenings, and we tag team you with lots of love. And the theme really is around empowerment. And if you give me a moment, I can tell you, you might end up having to pause because I don't remember the name of the retreat in this moment. But generally, it's a 5-day retreat around empowerment. Kenji is an amazing channel, and he's great at clearings. And I'm a channel that does activations. And so the two of us are kind of going to be weaving some clearings and some activations. Everyone that comes to this retreat is going to get a star Akashic reading from me, meaning you're going to get to know some of your galactic energy. So we're planning on having about 150 people at this retreat. Every single person is going to get to know one piece of their galactic information, because what I'm going to do is first give a broad information around some of the star energies and how they, when we incarnate on Earth, how they show up for us in light and in shadow. Because when you take something that's upper dimensional and you shove it into a meat suit, it's going to show up in various different ways. And so I give a talk around that, and then everyone in the audience will get to know something about who they are, a teaser, if you will, some information around your blueprint. Because I feel like, again, there's benefit in the empowerment piece. Oh, so I have a Pleiadian background, and that means this, this, and this. Now that I know that, I can utilize this in a certain way. Because one of my specialties is doing galactic Akashic readings for people, and you can find that on my website too. The other thing to know really quick is that I am doing also on the equinox on the 22nd at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, Om Rahanu, which is an energy of a collective that I do channel, will be doing an event. So there's that too.
All right. So we've got another upcoming event in a couple of weeks. We've got lots of stuff happening. And, you said that you were this galactic Akashic record reading, which is so exciting, because who doesn't want to know about their galactic ancestry, right? How does that integrate with who I am in this humanness today? So that's a great offering for people to find out more about who they are and to know thyself, right? Just another aspect and experience of who we really are. And not to mention that you are a channel. So I'd like to pose to you, is there any particular being that might want to come through and give us maybe a message for today to, for all of our viewers and listeners today that might be in this moment or in the moments that whenever you open up this video, that this is something for you to receive? So, is there something that we can ask today that might come through?
Yes. So Omra is going to come in, and she does have a message, and she'll also open it up. It's a quick message, it feels like.
Oh, good.
I heard yes, but also if you have anything that you'd like to ask, you're welcome to do so as well. And if
Thank
nothing
you.
comes up, that's okay too. Just let her know, or let them. It's really them. I
Yeah.
experience her as a feminine, but she is a collective of lots of beings. So I'm just going to take a moment to welcome her into. She's very present.
Mhm.
And welcome her into the space. Yes, greetings, dear ones. We are welcoming you to this space in this moment. We are Umrah Hanu, and we are grateful to be with you on this day. And we wish for you to understand, to remember, to bring into your energy field the concept of resilience. We wish for you to know that you are incredibly, as a humanity, as a cosmic being of light, as one with all that is, you are incredibly resilient. We wish for you to know this, that you have everything that you need in order to continue your journey. You have everything you need in order to take just one step forward. You are a miracle. You are an amazing, precious being of light. And even when you are feeling lost, even when you are feeling that you are in your lowest point, the truth of who you are is always residing within your heart, dear ones. And we wish for you to know that we are always, always, always watching over you. We are always walking this path with you, and we are always as close as the beat of your heart, because we love you so dearly, and because we can see within the field of the all how very beautiful, how very special, and how very precious you are. We wish for you to know this for yourself. Do not forget the word resilience, for it is the truth of your being. All things will always be in a state of change. So no matter where you are on this journey, know that in the next moment, in the next hour, in the next day, your frequency, your energy can change. And with that, we ask if you have any questions.
Uh, I share much gratitude and thanks for you, the collective of Omar Hanu, and thank you for joining us and allowing Aurora to be this wonderful vessel today. I do have a question for you, and this is to pose to the collective of what tool can our viewers and listeners use to help them construct resilience in their life?
There are several things, dear one. We thank you for this beautiful question. For it is an excellent question indeed. Resilience requires one to first remember that they are part of source. And if you can spend time in prayer, in silence, in nature, in meditation, you will start to remember once again this feeling of connection to the all. Wherever the temple or church is for you, whether those be physical buildings or being near the ocean or the mountains, we encourage you to spend time in this place. For when you are in the state of being with the all, your resilience comes to the forefront. We also remind you to come back into the space of love. And if you do that with partnership, with friendship, with family, with animals, whichever ways you can remember the energy and the frequency of love, you are automatically again connecting with the source that you already are. And as you do this, your energy field becomes more fortified in the remembrance that love will be the answer to every question. We hope this answers your question, beloved.
Most certainly it does. And we are so grateful for this message that you've bountifully given to us today. I thank you and I send you my love and appreciation and my energy with deep gratitude. So thank you for sharing with us today. And Omar Hanu, if you could bring the most beautiful Aurora Luna Star back, we thank you for your gift.
We thank you very much, dear ones. Hi.
Hi, Aurora. And thank you. And thank the collective of Aurora Anu to bring such a wonderful message and insight and gift for all of our viewers today that are watching. So it was such a pleasure to have some time to experience with you today and just the lovely human being that you are, the Akashic Galactic record reader, the sound alchemist that you are, the channel, and just the loving, compassionate, evolving human being that you are. I love you so very much as such a dear friend, and I'm so blessed to have people like you in my surroundings that are continuously giving in a way that is empowering humanity, and I get to take benefit of that as well. So Aurora, I'd like to say, is there anything else that you would like to add today before we close our podcast? Is there any special message or something that you just want people to remember, or take a look at your website? Is there anything that we could give that piece of information out today?
Well, first, I just have to say, mirror, mirror, I thank you for being this amazing beacon of light on the planet and in my life. I love you so much, dear friend. I really, really do. It's indescribable. And I just thank you, thank you, thank you. And sure, I mean, if you want to sign up for my newsletter, you could just go to the homepage on my website. So that's one way to stay in contact, even if there are no events going on that you feel aligned to connect with. And really, the ultimate message that Omra shared is just to remember how powerful that we all are, right? That's what resilience is power, and love is power. It's not force, it's power, right? The answer is always going to be love. So even in our darkest hour, I feel so emotional right now. It's crazy. Even in our darkest hour, the most powerful thing that we can do is come back to remembering love. And honestly, the truth is we've already survived our very worst day. We're still here. Right? We've all had really bad times and we're still here. So I just encourage you to remember that you can keep going and that you're never going to be alone on this journey. Not ever.
So beautiful and so beautifully put. So thank you for that. Aurora, much thanks and gratitude from the Ascension Stargate Podcast Series. Thank you for being on the show today. You're so much loved and appreciated, and I can't wait to bring you back again to let everybody know all of these amazing things that are happened or that have happened and where our next trajectory is going to go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.